Three Cliffs Bay, along with Rosilly Bay, is often voted one of the best beaches in the world. Situated just below Pennard Castle, it regularly attracts tourists from all over to see this unique part of Gower. Gower is well known for its breathtaking views and rugged coastline. Many caves are found along the steep cliffs of the peninsula, such as Minchin Cave, which I explored in part 2 of A Bit of History About Gower. A cave will form along a fault line which allows for sea erosion to form an indentation in the rocks. Sometimes this leads to the formation of an archway, like we see here at Three Cliffs Bay. A lot of bays are formed by sea erosion along a fault line. You can find out much more information about sea erosion and fault lines and the formation of caves in A Bit of History About Gower Part 5. What a view! I'm heading to Pavland Cave, also known as Goat's Hole, which is located between Portainen and Rosilly. Pavland Cave is one of the most famous in Europe. This is because of the discovery by William Buckland in 1823. On our way down to Pavland Cave now, and what's become very obvious is it's so important to go down here when the tide is going out. Already I can see that there is water here, which tells us that obviously the tide will come right up. So if you go into Pavland Cave, it's important to go when the tide's going out, because if you're there and the tide's coming in, you could potentially get cut off. So if you do happen to be coming down here, do come when the tide's going out. Top tip. William Buckland, a former professor of geology at Oxford University, carried out an excavation of this cave in 1823. This is where he found his most famous find, the bones of the Red Lady. At the time of discovery, Buckland believed the bones were from a female. This was because of decorative items found with the bones, such as ivory rings and necklaces. That, along with the skeleton's red dye, led Buckland to believe this was a burial from the Roman era of a witch or prostitute. It was only until the late 20th century, when radiocarbon dating was invented, that the age of the Red Lady has been pushed further and further back. It is now believed that the remains are from over 33,000 years ago. And recent analysis tells us that the bones are of a young man in his 20s. Although Pavland Cave is right by the sea today, when this young male was alive, this would have been an inland cave around 100 kilometres from the sea. And what we call the Bristol Channel today was in fact a vast forest, a hunting ground. Bone protein analysis tells us that he lived on a diet of around 20% fish. Now this makes us think, although this is an inland cave, perhaps he was travelling regularly to the sea to get food. Maybe he was part of a tribe that was constantly on the move, back and forth transporting goods. Perhaps there was a fresh river or stream nearby where he was able to get an unlimited supply of fresh fish. Or maybe he lived permanently by the sea, and when he died, his body was transported inland and buried here. The Red Lady of Pavland can be found in the University of Oxford Museum, as at the time of discovery there was no suitable home in Wales. Some objects from Pavland Cave can be found in Swansea Museum, such as bracelets and flints. West of Paviland Cave is Fall Bay. Like many bays on Gower, Fall Bay is spectacular to look at. One of the interesting features of Fall Bay is a wave-cut platform above where the sea levels are today. During the time the Red Lady of Paviland was alive, the sea was 100 kilometers away. Yet here we have geological evidence that the sea levels were much higher, millions of years before the Red Lady. Here we have a deposit in the rocks that's clearly demarcated and full of round pebbles and crushed seashells. This shows remnants of a tropical beach which existed when the sea levels were approximately 10 meters higher than they are today and when the climate was much warmer. Above this layer is a larger deposit of angular limestone rocks. This was left behind by the retreating glaciers from the last ice age when the climate was much colder. Here we can see the fossil beach layer. Below it we have softer limestone rock, and above it we have glacial melt deposits. And over millions and millions of years, the sea has eroded the softer limestone rock and the glacial melt deposit much faster, leaving this jutting out as we see today. The glacial melt deposits above the fossil beach layer were laid down about 20,000 years ago. But because of its unstable structure, it's eroding fast. The softer limestone below the fossil beach is also eroding, but at a much slower rate. This image shows two raised beach platforms where the sea is cut into the rock against a steep sloping cliff, leaving behind wave-cut platforms once the sea has receded. Here on Fall Bay you can see a wave-cut platform, and if you look very carefully you may be able to see them right across Gower. It is worth remembering that we live on a planet where the climate fluctuates. There have been times where the whole Earth was covered in ice, and at the other extreme, where there were no polar ice caps at all. Sea levels have risen and fallen throughout history, and with what I have learned filming on Gower over the years, I have no doubt that sea levels will rise and fall again many times.